this week in Astro has been a pretty quiet but eventful week. There's a lot of things that has been getting put down into the ground now. Um, a lot of the projects that were up in the air in the past couple of months have now been coming out into fruition, and we're starting to see that really drop. Um, there's a couple of big ones that I like to discuss to show, but just to do the formal introduction, this is the With Astro repo that you can check out at github.com/with Astro, and this is where you'll find and be kept up to date with pretty much everything related to Astro. Today, with this section, I would like to discuss a couple of the main changes that are coming out in Astro, just to give you a bit of a heads up to see what is going to be coming out, impacting future projects and the future direction of Astro. And perhaps I think we should just roll the clock back right the way down to um, version 0.24. This is a significant change in Astro. Version 2.23 basically came in and again set a lot of the groundwork going, but when version 24 hit, it really did stabilize a lot of the incremental issues that came up in the previous version, and it is by far my favourite version of Astros to date. It is significantly faster. They are utilising a new build strategy that is taking Astro towards the direction of being a server-side renderer, and in the process of doing that, it's managed to make builds for incrementally large builds. So we're talking thousands of pages being built by Astro in extremely fast times. Like build times are just my build time is halved, and that is something that I've noticed, especially when I moved over to version 24. And the work is continuing to get better. So there has been significant changes like improvements in setting new behaviors for Astro to remove some of the concerns. This set HTML behavior is a breaking change for many of the packages. But talking about breaking change, Astro themselves, they managed to introduce a flag to allow you to revert back to the legacy build, which is pre 0.23 or 24, depending on which side of that spectrum you want to see yourself on. But so if you're working on previous builds and you're wanting to upgrade to the newer versions, you can do. And if you're finding issues that are causing breakages, just apply the flag, and it should be able to smooth that out and allow you to migrate in time without causing too much detriment to your existing projects. And the change is significant. Like I said, you will be seeing massive improvements on your build time. And then we are just going into the nitty gritties here, right? By the time 0.24 version 3 of 24 came out, a lot of the internals were sorted in terms of the new build strategy. And we are now Astro is now implementing version 25, quick off the heels of version 24. Because there's a lot in the pipeline that they're wanting to get out and wanting to push through. And we are going to be talking about some of this. The main one is, for instance, there's a new CSS parser under the hood. This, like it says, fixes a lot of support for modern CSS syntax, and it's also introduced the likes of the container queries and the new CSS cascade layer queries as well, and also introduced nesting as well into the styles itself, which is fantastic. It means that we're relying less on the likes of Sass and other preprocessors and bringing them more natively into this. And this is all off the back of Nate just working and working on the compiler. Seriously, we appreciate it. And off the heels of this, there is the new migration guide that are coming up. Now, please bear in mind, I don't know if you can make this out, but this is the deploy preview branch currently set up. There's a PER set up to basically contain the new migration guides that are be coming through. And like I said, version 25. Version 24 is currently up on the live site, I believe. And so, but these are the new stuff that you're going to be getting a quick preview to, basically. And we thought that it was perhaps prudent. The text in here is going to change, however, the concepts are pretty much set in stone. there is a new integration system being brought in into version 25. Now, this is a significant change to Astro moving forward, whereas by replacing the existing setup, whereas Astro brings the renders to the party for you. So normally it brings the likes of I'll zoom in a wee bit. Oh, too much. Okay, so maybe not. It brings in React, and it also brings in the likes of Vue, Svelte, Lit, etc. Right? And these, sorry, Solid, and these basic packages, renders are coupled with Astro, and in part of Astro, shedding a fair bit of weight, we realized is that we could move the renders themselves and make the integration sequence a lot easier for developers bringing third-party tools to Astro, because Astro's now at a point where it's willing to or wanting to accommodate as many of the other tools in the ecosystem as much as possible, because yeah, it is a meta front-end framework, so it's putting itself out to be that now. The integrations themselves open up towards component authors and developers, so they too can tap into Astro and at many different points. And we will speak into that. We will look into this in a wee bit. And but yeah, the main one is there is no more built-in renders, folks. Right. So come version 25, your default renders will no longer be brought along, right, by Astro. Instead, you're going to have to invite them to the party. And this is what we're going to be talking about as well, right? So there's a page coming out written by Fred and Sarah where they're talking about using Astro integrations, this new functionality and behavior that has been brought to you, right? Where, like I said, we can write our own integrations, or we could even grab popular ones that we're familiar with out of the ecosystem directly. And this is all designed to help unlock third-party tooling surrounding these fantastic frameworks. Um, the likes of Partytown is now going to be more natively supported with Astro, TurboLinks as well for the single-page navigation aspect. Um, so there is great improvements in this space coming. Um, just to go down, just to show you how one would import React, and well, moving into the future with version 25 coming, it is simple as going to npm and installing at astrojs/react. Now, the config itself has also changed slightly. Then this is going to be shown more so, but however, normally there would be a renders function. So let me just bring up the actual existing docs and I'll show you the current method. I do love the new styling, by the way. It is getting, I like this. This is my kind of purple. So we are going to, sorry, reference, and it is in configuration reference. So currently, this is the existing method in which renders are applied to Astro. They have their own little namespace within the config itself. However, this is now being deprecated, safe to say, and will be replaced with integrations. And integrations is pretty much where we're going to be seeing all your renders move to. Jumping back to here, and we can see that here. So integrations, using similar kind of syntax that we've just seen on our previous page, where we're just declaring the React, and we're just importing React like we normally do at the top of the config file. Another thing that will be missing moving forward is that pure dependencies will have to be self-managed. There is many pros to this, more pros than there is, convenience. The main one is that you get to have control, actual legitimate control over the versioning of what packages that are being applied to your projects. So, you could keep them current, or if you got certain packages that, that you're stuck to, by all means, you could keep to, right? That's not a problem. And there is sorry, this next bit, right, is where we're talking more about the integrations and how to write integrations into your package, into your project. And by all means, once this page, gets finalized and gets live, I highly recommend taking a look at it. You will find it in amongst the Learn section on the Astro Docs page in the integration section just down here, right? But please, by all means, this is going to be a big change to your Astro projects, and do check it out. Um, Another cool thing that I think is fantastic for Astro is the ability to toggle the integrations based on platforms, or based on the process environment variables, etc. And moving on to the next part is what we're going to be talking about. What I am particularly interested and excited about is building our own integrations. um Astro integrations, the API has been predicated upon the groundwork that comes before it. And when Astro moved to Vite in version 0.19, I think it was 0.21, when that change happened, there was a lot of things that created in terms of the plugin ecosystem that allowed Astro to tap into, and that was the fact that Vite relied heavily upon the roll-up model of creating plugins. Now, this is a widely accepted model, and Astro now is really starting to take hold and leverage it. So with the new API that has been proposed and accepted through the most recent RFC rounds, um, which you can always jump in Tuesday, 7 p.m. GMT, in the Discord channels, and your participation is always welcome, especially with the RFCs. Um, sorry, the request for features call, which happens weekly in Astro. Um, Now, this is the integrations API. As I said, this was discussed heavily. A pet project by Fred, and I have to say, so much, so needed, especially for somebody like myself who's been building Astro components and um, tools to help other developers. They do make it. This does make that step, that journey, a lot easier for somebody like myself, and somebody who wants to explore this space even more, because with Astro being relatively new, the more integrations that are coming, the better. Um, and so what we're seeing here is the ability to tap into Astro at several points. We could tap into Astro's configuration um, during the setup. So, when everything gets read first time, and then there's the done, which is, afterwards kind of effect. We've got the server startup, which is the dev server, right? And so it allows us to tap into the connections in there. And we've also got the build sequence where we could tap into like the pre-build sequence and the post-build. So we could do more around the building when we're working with the development, and not only that, adding elements to the configuration itself. So for instance, you're the boys over at Tailwind, you're Nathan and his pals over at Tailwind. This is what you'll be kind of be looking at, right? Is to develop your own integrations in a very similar way. And let me see if I've got a couple of integrations opened here that I just want to quickly just show you the APIs in application, right? Um, so here, this is a renderer for React. This is what React renderer will look like with Astro, and not discussing too much about it, just getting an overview of it. Here we're just defining the Vite configurations, what will be passed into Vite, um, and then during the configuration setup, and this is the main function that gets returned, right, to the integration API. And here we're just going to add the renderer to the configuration, and then we're just going to pass it into Vite. Happy days, right? It This entire API is a lot simpler and easier to follow. Similar with Solid. Solid out of the frameworks is probably my favorite JSX framework. And here we're just looking into it, and as you can see, it's a very similar API and that we've just seen with the React. So it's streamlining a lot of things in this respect. This is turbo links. This is fantastic because it gives us the ability to have single page navigation, along with Rafid's Astro SPA plugin. It's like, for instance, with that particular plugin, we could do something similar here, right? And, create Astro's own turbo links if need be. This is the Tailwind one, right? And Tailwind's CSS is simple. Here we're just basically defining it again within the Astro configuration. We're just injecting the post CSS plugins. Like we would normally do when we're creating Tailwind and Astro, we just create the post CSS configuration file and just apply, what the post configuration requires. Here we're just doing that for you. And this is what the API integration, sorry, the Astro Integrations API is really looking to deliver: a streamlined use case for people to bring third-party ecosystems and their own tools into Astro to use in their own projects. Fantastic. So that is the big changes that are coming in Astro this week. Next up, I want to quickly just give a couple of shout outs to some community members and their work that they've been doing and they shared quite nicely in the community over the last week. This is Rodney. Rodney is quite a cool guy. He's very well versed and got a lot of experience within the web development community, and he's recently moved his entire project, his previous project, from Gatsby, which is a household name, to Astro. And this article is definitely one to take a look at. We, from his own opinions, discusses, like I said, you know, um, he's knowledgeable in this area and it's quite interesting to see, his opinions in relation to the two frameworks, Gatsby and Astro. And please, by all means, do take a look at it. See if you could, it's quite insightful, and I would highly recommend taking a look over Rodney's work. Um, Also, do follow him on Twitter. He is actually a sound gentleman. Next up, we have a community member called Petter, right, who's basically released this transportation website for a client of his, and then what we've got is just a really nice looking website, really performant, using a lot of components here, right? With Astro, this is a great use case of island architecture with Astro as a landing page, for your clients. And as you can see, very slick, very well done. Next up, sorry, clicked the wrong button. Next up, I want to show a couple of components or demos that was provided by one of Astro's core members, Nate. Last week we had Matthew and his corset, project, which is extremely interesting and mind bending at the same time, which is fantastic. But here is a couple of projects that have been presented by Nate. What we have is a demo for a switch and, well, a switch case component that might, hopefully, fingers crossed, hint hint, nudge nudge, make its way into Astro, because this is pretty damn powerful. As you can see, if we were to change the value here to 3, we now apply the slot 3. And a lot of this is leveraging Astro itself, but however, Nate has done a couple of things under the hood that allows us to basically determine, based on conditions set in the front matter, what the final output in a switch case would be, which is pretty damn cool. I mean, this is pretty damn cool and can have a lot of implications if it does get rolled out. Another project that Nate has been working on is Token CSS. Now, this was demoed on a live stream. What do you call it? On the front end horse with Alex Trost, and this was basically a very interesting live stream. I do recommend you to check this out, because Nate does something where he occasionally comes out the woods and just blows everybody's mind. And Token CSS is definitely one of those examples. Now, Nate also helped build the new compiler in Astro, which leveraged a lot of the changes that we're seeing now. And by all means, do take a look at Token CSS. Token CSS is pretty much an implementation of design tokens, which is a new standard coming through, which is getting worked upon, and it's because it's leveraging the design systems within that you would normally use. For instance, frameworks like Tailwind gives you the concept of utility classes, whereas this goes one step deeper and gives you the concept of designing your tokens. Um, and by allocating your tokens into a simple configuration file, what Nate has also done is allowed to do, and I would highly recommend checking out the demonstration halfway through here, um, where he basically just starts to use like the background color, right? With the width, the height, you might be able to see that under the background there, but you've got this form of selectors. And all this really does is tap in to the actual configuration file, pulls it out. For instance, he's like he went to Indigo, so Indigo might be down here somewhere if this is the right file. But anyways, let's just say he pulls out teal, right? No, this is Tailwind configuration, my mistake. So it won't be in here. But let's just say he went teal 500, and you'll still get the same colors as you'll get within the Tailwind, presets. And you could declare that directly in line with your CSS, which is amazing. Really amazing. Coupled in with the fact that we mentioned earlier that Astro is now bringing in the likes of container queries and CSS cascade layers, designing and using CSS in Astro is going to be like no other framework. And I could really see, once we couple in the likes of Token CSS into Astro, it's going to be fantastic. And there is a repo in here that has an Astro template that you could by all means check out. Using Gitpod, or you could just spin it up in your local dev server. But by all means, do give it a wee star and do check it out and a wee watch, right? And this brings us up to our last bit in the This Week in Astro. As you can see, it's been weeks are quite eventful. A year in web development is like dog years, but a week in Astro is like a month for a dog. So, anyways, normally with the old Astro, when I say the old Astro new, we didn't have the open in Gitpod. We didn't have the ability to launch Astro as a single click, but we do have this available for every single one. So depending on your browser, depending on which your preference, we're now supporting all three of the main IDE developers for all our frameworks, for all our integrations, and for all our existing templates. Now, there's a couple that I would like to make a shout out on here. If you would like to check out, if you are a component author, please do check out the component repo, and also this new SSR one, and also the non-HTML pages. This is something that came in a week or so ago, but it is definitely something that is pretty fantastic in Astro, where you can create non-standard Astro pages, pull that into build time, so you can create your JSON files, you can create your TOML files, XML files, images even. What Tony has done here is pretty fantastic. So please do check out the templates that are on astro.new and play about. That's what Astro's all about.